2 or 3 days in the past week. But anyway, Happy New Year to everybody. And we are going to do the stats for December 31st. And I'm going to surprise you with what the median price has jumped up to. So hang on, everybody. We are going to delve right into this. I want to get rid of this crawler. There we go. Okay. Let me make sure, do a sound check real quick. Real quick. Testing. It says I'm live, but it doesn't show anything. Technology, I love it. There we go. Okay, I can hear. All right, everybody. So we ended the year ahead of last year for December, which I was not surprised, but I was like being a little bit cautious in my predictions. But we did. We ended up doing 135 sales a day this month, and last year was 132. Now, between now and the end of today, some people may go into the MLS and mark that they sold homes. So that may go up a little bit even, depending on how many. So anyway, good year. We have 21 days of inventory, not to panic. By next week, hopefully y'all will be listing. You listed 51 homes yesterday, and you put 49 under contract, and we closed 131. Yay. Awesome day, 177 closings. Terrific. We have averaged this year 139 sales a day. That's fantastic for all of us. I think there's 16, maybe going on 17,000 real estate agents in Las Vegas. I didn't get the latest count on how many of those are realtors. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Good to see you. Yes, Happy New Year. It's a great day in the morning, isn't it? So everything else is kind of like holding steady. Everything's kind of cool. We've got 20 homes. We listed 400,000 and under, and we've got 463 of those active. And right below it, I put that, if you're buying a home in that price range, your payment's probably going to be less than rent. Yep, probably going to be less than rent. So that's a good thing, and you're building equity. The average renter in 10 years is worth $6,000 to $12,000. The average homeowner net worth in 10 years is $250,000. So, and this weekend, oh, by the way, I'm going to do my seller sheet to show people their equity. Now, let me jump on to the news of the day. Let's see. Where did it go? Where did you go? Here you are. Look at this. We went from 422,000 in November to 430,000 is the median sales price right now in Las Vegas. Now, if you look at the average is different, of course. It takes everything in one big lump. The median takes the middle. So 430,000. Wow. So I will have to probably adjust my home price on the stat page to reflect that. Yeah, unbelievable. But we started the year at 346 and ended the year at 430. So people's equity, is 75,000 if you bought in January. You have increased, that's a huge 19% increase in the value of your home. Amazing stuff. So today, I want to show a video that Tom Ferry did with an agent who tells the story of how he got, what happened from the day he got into business and fast forwarding to today with some of his challenges that we've all had. 2008 was a challenge. The pandemic was a challenge. And along the way, we've had other challenges. So I'm going to, today's show, it's going to be about 35 minutes. So if you have the time, it's a really good interview that Tom is doing with Mr. Gantry. He had some tough times. So please, let's get started with that so we can get out of here and enjoy the day. I'm not going out today. I went out, put my scarf on. Oh no, not walking today. So it's a cold day today, and I'm going to stay home and work. The office is closed for the holiday, and it's going to be a wonderful new year. I just know it. let me go ahead and get this moving. Come on. Come on. Please work with me here. Come on. Let me hide my.
Yep.
And I was like, well, clearly this is going to be the thing.
And you had everybody do live at one of the
Everybody.
summits. Yeah.
Open houses, everything.
Everybody had videos of themselves like this. Like, this is me up my nose, right? Like, yes.
That's so true.
If you just follow the trends, that's how you win.
Yep.
Right? So you're definitely going to win here. You should follow up on one of our clients, Jeremy Knight. So shout out to Jeremy Knight. 100 grand a month is what he's making.
Wow.
Just from his YouTube channel, following the same SEO strategy.
Okay.
And you know what he does? He reads the news. He just
Really?
reads the news. Here's what's going on in Austin, Texas. Hey, did everybody see that Elon Musk is looking to buy a $20 million house and they're moving in 6,000 employees? And he's reading the news. And then what happens is the news then picks him up. And then he's reading the news article about him talking about Austin real estate.
Wow.
Jeremy is a beast of a human being. He's a super, super great guy, but crushes consistent video every day, every day, every day, every day, all day on YouTube. And then Insta and goes every place else. So your video ambition is what? Like, why are you really doing it?
To get come list me calls.
Yeah.
And that's the reason.
Yeah.
Ultimately, to build that familiarity so they feel like they know you and then get the come list me calls.
Yeah.
And the success I've had in it is not so much getting those calls, but it's validation.
For sure.
So, because anytime I go on a listing appointment, we watched all your videos.
Right.
So that's kind of, to me, I feel like that's the first step.
Yep.
Is now the validation, but and then soon the next step is to get new clients.
So a couple of weeks ago, we did a mastermind with all these video rock stars.
I saw that,
right?
yeah.
And Christoph Chu said, here's how it works. If I get a call like, hey, we want you to come talk to us about our property. How did you hear about me? Oh, we saw you on YouTube. Oh, how many videos did you watch by chance? He's like, if they tell me like north of 5, it's a come list me call. Right? Like they know me, they like me, they understand my style, they understand who I am and how I'm going to show up. And he's like, it just greases the wheels. And I don't understand why most agents don't get that. Like you clearly get it, and that's what you're going to build towards.
Working on, yeah.
Why do you think most people are still not doing video? I mean, it is 2021, 2022, 2023. Like the world has changed.
And you've done is better than perfect.
Right.
And so I think people are worried about how they look, how they respond. I mean, even I have that. Okay, do I need to, let's make sure we've got this or that going, but it doesn't matter. Even if it just get it out.
I know some people that are super boring on video and they kill it because they're just consistent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just okay, I'm gonna give a shout out to David Caldwell, who's like, here's what's going on in the Portland, and like Dave says, I am a dry, like analytical. I mean, he's a beast of a human being. I love you, buddy.
Amazing.
But like, if he was here right now, he would go, yeah, that's it.
me.
I just read the news. And then they call me and say, come list my house.
But it makes sense because they keep on seeing somebody.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
well, it's the obvious choice.
Yeah.
You're actively, in front of me. So.
All right. So, and $50 back. Would you take that bet? You better take that bet because that's exactly what our guest today, Gantry Wilson. What's up, G Money? Good to see
Tom,
you, buddy.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me in.
Of course. And Mary Jett, right? President of our coaching company.
That's me.
Who was right there at the very beginning. This guy, 2 weeks into the business, we're at Miles Square Park in Orange County, California. I'm doing an event, and he walked up as a 2-week veteran of real estate and became our first coaching client outside of my original group.
Yep, and actually, I didn't sign up right then. I wanted to think about it a little bit. I was a little bit hesitant.
Even better.
Nothing has changed.
Even better. Nothing has changed.
And what was interesting,
I think you just got dog right there.
yeah.
I love you.
But tell us the story.
So what was interesting was there was an agent in our office who was
Yeah.
with your dad,
Yep.
and she was a huge client with your dad. And
Who was it?
Iona Miller.
Of course.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
yes.
I have a great story. Remind me. I almost got in a fist fight. I'll just say that. Yes, in a tuxedo, and she was in a gown, and so was my wife. But I'll tell
She's
that
a
story
very
later.
German,
She's amazing.
right,
She's
amazing.
amazing.
But sold millions of dollars back then.
Yeah,
And-
she became my client. She became my personal
Oh,
client.
I didn't know that.
Post almost the fist fight. Okay, so
So
Ilona
she said,
Miller
"Don't sign up for Tom.
Yeah.
You need to come see Mike." And she
Right.
said, "Come be my guest." And she actually paid for my
No, she
ticket.
said,
This is
"Darling,
amazing.
come. You need to come and see Mike."
That's exactly what she
yes,
said.
Yes,
So come and see Mike. So I showed up at Mike in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
I went and saw him on stage.
yes.
And I was like, this isn't me. I've done sales my whole life. And Mike, he's very much like,
yes,
don't
I
do
do.
this. All you do is you make calls and poof, open house, you spit on the stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not how I want to do it. And Tom's big thing at the time, and still even now, is there's no wrong way to prospect.
Right.
You can always get deals as long as you're out there and you're prospecting, you're active.
Okay, hold on really fast. Dad, if you're listening, we love you.
We love you.
We're just,
Mike,
he's
we love
busting
you.
your chops, but I'll see you for Thanksgiving and for Christmas and everything else. All right.
And so from that conference, I called in and said, I want to sign up.
Right.
While I was at your dad's conference.
That makes it even better. I didn't even know that
Oh,
detail.
that's right. I remember that. Yep. But the funny thing is that we didn't even have a contract. I had to make it for you.
Mary, you're not making us look very professional. That was 18 years ago.
We were babies.
Okay, so Gantry, you're in Huntington Beach, but you serve Greater Orange County.
Right.
And I shared these numbers, 9 million. We actually just sat there and went through your entire, 18-year career. You made $250,000 your first year in the business 18 years ago. Like, that's nuts. And you started in April. Well, you're old.
That's right. I'm the oldest one here.
I'm going to get hit for that. So I want to unpack the lessons, the journey, the missteps, the mistakes, because there's a pretty good chance someone right now is listening that is somewhere around the world and they just got into the real estate business and they're thinking to themselves, if I could take an hour with Gantry and cut off a decade of learning, that would be a worthwhile hour.
That'd be well.
There's probably even a veteran listening going, all right, well, how did he make $9 million? Like, I want to do the same thing. So I want to unpack all that. But first, give us context. Like 18 years ago, what were you doing prior to real estate? Why did you go into real estate versus anything else you could do? Give us the understanding on that.
Since high school, so I was electrical engineering at USC.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want to become an engineer. So I wanted to go into sales, technical sales. And so I was selling to aerospace companies. I was selling to engineering firms. And did that for quite a while. And had a bunch of different sales jobs. And once you learn to sell, to me, it was like you can sell anything.
Where did you learn to sell?
Yeah.
Like where? Like, you remember the courses they sent you to?
I've done them all. Like I did everything from selling to CEOs to spin selling to all of those. And even as a little kid, I used to sell door-to-door Christmas cards. I'd sell door-to-door cotton, the caramel colored peanuts. And
Yes.
It was in your blood.
Yeah. I mean, it was always something I loved.
But you've got this blue color, high analytical, and somehow someone said, you might want to learn how to smile. Yeah. Right?
So I've always been more of a people person. And the engineers, you sit behind the computers, I'm like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And so the job right before I got into real estate, I was vice president of international sales for a manufacturing company. And I was traveling 2 weeks a month internationally.
Yeah.
And I was commuting to El Monte from Huntington Beach. And my wife was pregnant with our second child.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And so I literally, quit and said, honey, I'm going to go cold turkey. We're going to go into real esate. Now, I mean, talk about pressure. My wife's pregnant. She was 5 months pregnant.
And you were loaded with cash savings.
It's our second child. Yeah. We didn't have that much. We had some savings, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't have time to figure this out. And so I need somebody to tell me what to say, what to do, and who to go say it to. And that's what I'm going to do. And so that's why I was like, I got to get a coach quick. Right. And so that's why when you came and spoke, I was like, this is exactly what I need. Like I said, I don't want to figure this out. Just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. I was the most coachable I've ever been in my whole life.
Sure.
That's true. Yeah.
We should call his coach right now.
I know.
Where he's at today.
Yes.
All right. So year one, which really was, again, it was April, right, when you got started. So year one, you did $250,000 in GCI. And from the 2004, 12 transactions, 12 buyers with total transactions of 16. So if you were starting over today, if I moved you tomorrow to San Jose, if I moved you tomorrow to Whistler, Canada, what would you do differently as a new agent?
So back then, it was all about getting buyers, and it was, hey, how can I go get buyers, whether it was doing open houses or whatever it was. Nowadays, it's got to be about sellers, I think. And it's a matter of, it's door knocking for sellers. That's the cheapest thing you can do. Right. Holding open houses, talking to the neighbors, going mainly your sphere and past clients is what I've learned. That's a good thing to do, I guess.
But that's today. Right. Right. If you were starting over though. Right. Would you go back to buyers?
Buyers will get you the quickest buck. Right. So buyers is the fastest way to get started.
Yep.
And then try and switch quicker. Because it took me a while to switch into sellers.
Yeah.
It took me a long time.
So let's again, I don't mean to only talk about the past, because we're going to talk about you've had a lot of incredible runs and experiences. Remember, guys, he got started right into just you and I together in our businesses. Like 2006, here we go. 2007, holy shit, right?
Yeah.
The whole world changed. You went through it. We were going through it. We were helping a lot of clients. Right? You and I navigate through it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I want to go back to those early days. Like, what would you say were like the 5 or 6 most important things if you were talking to a new agent today? Like, knowing what you know now, like what worked for you, or what would you recommend?
I mean, number one is hire a coach. I mean, that's not even trying to shill you guys. I mean, that's the most important thing you can do.
Yeah.
100%.
Why though?
Because otherwise, like, why try and figure it out? Why, have somebody who's working with other people, who's either been through it themselves or working with other people, who knows the road. I mean, why try and just like you're trying to go from destination A to destination C without a map? Doesn't make any sense.
Do you get the fast pass when you go to Disneyland, or do you wait in line?
Yeah, always we try and get the fast pass. Yeah.
Right. It's okay. So like that, to me, like that's it. Like anything I can do to shortcut, spend 2 days versus spending 2 decades makes sense.
100%.
So get a mentor, get a coach, right? Get access to information. What's number 2?
Number 2 thing I think is, I think it's a lot of it's getting yourself in order. So getting time management, getting focus, getting diligent, like not treat it as a business.
Okay. So when you say getting yourself in order, like what goes through your head, Mary, when he says that?
I would look at what does your day look like? How do you structure it? What are you doing with lead generation, lead follow-up? Who are you reaching out to? Especially if you're a new agent, do you identify immediate sources of business? And I know you've talked about open houses, door knocking. Some people can't do that in their area, it's interesting that you say buyers. And I wanted to ask you, when you said that, how do you leverage a buyer to get a seller?
So, once you have that buyer, they're going to turn into a seller down the road, of course. But then it's a matter of asking them, okay, who do you know? Who else do you know? Because typically during the escrow process, what do they say? You're going to bump into 3 or 4 people that are going to be buying or selling, because everybody's excited. They're talking about it. And houses are exciting time. Yeah.
So if number 1 is get access to information, get a coach, right? Get a mentor, all that good stuff. Number 2 is clearly like get yourself in order, right? This is a business I'm running, right? This is not just obviously that's predicated on you actually wanting to do that, right? Yeah. You want to make a lot of money, which clearly you did because you had to. What about marketing, lead generation? What about learning what to say? Give us some insight there.
Oh, so absolutely. So that was the other thing too, is before you guys started offering NLP and started offering the sales scripts, I went to your brother's because and did the action workshop where I could learn NLP, could learn all the stuff. And now it's so great that you guys offer it. But that was the other thing too. So I was practicing 5 times a week. Yeah. And not only with just regular people, I was practicing with like Joe D and Ty and like some of the best of the best.
My buddies,
And I think you had called and put a good word in for me. Yeah. And I was so nervous to get on each time.
Well, you were my first client outside of all my friends that joined the very as my startup. Yes.
You always
hey guys, meet Gantry.
And so I would so I was on with them once a week, and I had other people during the time, but I would tape record every role play I did with them. Right. So I could practice over and over and I practiced on everybody else. Right. And so the next week I could give them back their scripts. Yeah. And they were always blown away by that. But it was because I was copying it and listening to it and really just practicing over and over.
But don't you think you had the unfair advantage coming from corporate sales where like that stuff was like mandated? Like you have to know to sell a technical product, you're not winging it.
So you learn scripts, but it's so much better. It's so more personable. Right. And it's so more intimate. Right. And with the corporate stuff, you're selling to the buyer or whoever it is. And it's black and white. Yeah. It's kind of maybe the difference between commercial and residential.
Potentially.
So Gantry, I'm curious because it's like you had multiple role play partners, but was it the same script but different deliveries? So did you learn a lot from that too?
So that's exactly. So once we would go through a script, and once we got it, then we move on to the next script.
Excellent. Yeah.
So,
that's great.
And so then I would stay on it for a while until you really knew it. You could say it, you'd had it inside. And you don't have to think about it. So
your second year, you went from 16 transactions, 4 listings sold, 12 buy side, if I'm reading that correctly, to 25, 20 buyers and 5 listings sold. What impacted learning what to say having that?
I mean, I almost doubled my business. I mean, just by learning those scripts. And that's exactly what it was. Yeah. And that was a tough time too, because back, if I don't know if you remember, 2004, 2005, it's kind of like right now.
Right.
15 offers on
Super
every,
fun.
on every house. And it was a difficult time. But it was a matter that's going in. And I used to present in person back then too, for my buyers.
Right.
And I always had a little trick where I would leave, I would take a picture while I'm presenting the offer of my family on a little frame. And then I would forget and leave it there. So while they're looking over,
you would bring a seller as you're presenting your buyer offer, or give us the context.
no. So I would have
I
had a picture of my cute buyer family.
Oh, okay.
And if
I thought it was his own family. I was like,
here's my family. I gotta have this deal.
Man, I gotta eat. Like, look at my kids.
I'm sure everybody
That's where I
thought
thought
that.
you were going. I was like, whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, now you can't do that.
Now you
because
can't do
of
it anymore.
fair
Right.
housing and
But I would leave the frame there.
Right.
So while they're picking the best ones, they'd be looking at this cute little family that would stare at them on the frame.
Oh, that's quite impressive.
That's mafia right there. That's like, and if you don't take this off, like,
Look, how could you make them not take their offer?
Okay, so learning what to say, right? What about marketing and lead generation? I mean, you chose us because we are the no wrong way to generate a lead. We want you to have lots of different opportunities, and ultimately it was about understanding that people have individual DNAs and styles and approaches, so you find what's right for you.
And you have your own tribes.
Right.
And so one of the tribes, so I went to USC.
Yep.
And so what we developed was a campaign to go after SC people. And then Mary Jett helped me with that.
Yes.
And so
We did this
we
marketing
actually
piece
created a
together.
series of postcards that I sent off to my alumni network that I knew and was able to start generate sales off of that too.
Right.
So
Right. Were they freaked out by that?
everybody loved it. Like it was, I was worried that I might get a little bit of blowback on it, but everybody was like, cause we did creative pictures. I hired a kid to go shoot landmarks at SC.
Yeah.
And then we made creative, things about houses, to interact with it. So.
Right.
And from your group and your networking group, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's like you refer them business, they refer you.
Right.
So it's like
Exactly.
It's a tight knit.
SC's used to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean and that's a great message for everybody here. And so if it wasn't college, it could have been high school, and if it wasn't that, it's your church. If it wasn't that, it's the people you smoke weed with. I'm just saying.
oh, okay.
Mary Jett.
But I think what was key was make it unique, because they're used to getting all this other stuff, and so that's why I tied right into what they loved was SC pictures and SC stuff.
Yeah, people are going to bust my chops for that, but really I should have said Jim Bishop and riding bikes, right? Because that was Jim's
true.
like, I've got this great networking group. We all ride bikes, but I'm the only real estate agent. I was like, brilliant. All right, so fast forward, we go into the global economic meltdown. How did you pivot?
So during that time, right before that, I thought I was the newest Rockefeller. I was making great money.
Oh yeah.
And
Let's go back. You're now at like between 28 and 35 transactions. Well, no, 26 transactions in 2007, and the wheels came off because the next year you went from 420 GCI to you down to 290, and your average commission percentage retained went from 2.2 to 1.8 overnight.
So
that's a haircut.
So that was a tough time. I don't know if you remember. And personally, what was going on is during those previous years, I started buying rental property.
Right.
With zero down, negative cash flow.
Oh my God, I just want to punch you in the face.
All the stuff that I was young and didn't know.
Yes.
I wasn't that young, but I should have known. But who cares? It's all going to the moon.
Right.
So
you're like both my 20-year-old. To the moon, Dad, to the moon. Here we go.
And so
what happened?
I lost my ass.
Yeah.
And not only did I lose those properties, I kept I ended up short selling. So my thing, but I ended up maxing out every credit card to pay the negative cash flow on it. Wow. So not only was I negative on them, but then I was negative, like I was maxed. By the end of it all, I was upside down about $600,000.
What was that like for you and your wife?
That was tough. That was a tough period.
Yeah.
So
we're talking 08 at this point, right?
That's exactly right.
So in 08, that's the year you went down to 290. Then I see REO for 4 straight years, all the way to 2012.
So I hit the darkest point, and it got to the point where I actually had a notice of default on my own house, stapled to the door.
Gosh.
And it was scary, And I was like, I don't care. I'm keeping the house no matter what.
Yeah.
And literally, I was like, okay, my back's against the wall. I've got to do well. And it was kind of like before, where my back's against, I've got to do well. And I just went out and sold as much as I possibly could. And then at that time, I pivoted. And that was right when you actually introduced me to my first REO account. And all of a sudden I started going after it. I was like, okay, this is the route. And so started going after REO accounts. And by the end, picked up 12 different REO accounts and started selling those over the next, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So, but it got to that low point, saved the house. And then all of a sudden we took off.
So what's the lesson? I mean, because there's probably 50, right? Relationship lessons, money lessons, investing lessons, don't put all your eggs in one basket lessons. But when you reflect back on those times, like if you were sitting here with your kids and they were, older by another 10 years, market goes up, market goes down. What's the most important 3 or 4 things you'd share with them?
I mean, I never ever buy negative cash flow stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter how small it is, but as long as it's generating a positive cash flow, that was, 100%. So,
Okay.
I will never buy negative cash flow again.
Yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't, if the market goes up or down, it doesn't matter if you've got rents covering it.
Right.
And we're going to sit on it for a long time. So.
Right. So that's one. How about you and your wife?
So it was, it brought us actually closer because it was tough, and she, it could have gone either way, but because of it, she's a good lady and stuck by me and said, you know what, let's, we're going to get through this. And it caused me to focus back and came back to kind of the basics. So by then, it's already been 4 years.
Right.
So I went back to getting up and do my affirmations and do my role plays, because I was an experienced agent 4 years in.
Yeah.
I didn't need I didn't need to do script practice anymore. So it brought me back to the basic, back to script practice, back to role playing, back to having a schedule, back to, all the stuff you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But you kind of, you get away from it.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, it's like you deviated from your plan.
That's exactly
And during that time, were you following up with your center of influence and past clients, or were you just totally laser focused on your REOs?
I didn't go after the past client sphere. And so, because I feel guilty, because now it's like, okay, I sold in these homes and now it's like worth half of what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's going to the moon. You got to buy now. And so I was, and so I didn't know what to say. And so I felt like shit because it felt bad because I didn't know what to say to him.
I
Because,
say shit all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a word we all like here.
John Grauman was dropping the F-bombs.
Was
the
he?
other day.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, is that your brand? He's like, F, yeah.
He was just
there
seasoning
you go.
his sentences. It's great.
But I felt horrible that I felt like I let him down. But it was funny because later on when I did end up calling him, they're like, Gantry, because they knew I was buying all these homes. They're like, you were right there with us. It wasn't like you were telling us to do something you weren't doing. You were right there with us. You were, that's how you felt. And who knew? Nobody knew at the time.
Yeah. Gantry, that's a really important part that you brought up, because like through my years of coaching, it's like when the market goes down, agents want to pull away and not educate. And it's like, that's the time when they need you the most.
100%.
Because it's like, if you buy stocks, your stockbroker is not going to say, oh my God, it goes down. I'm not going to talk to her ever again. So, you have to keep them educated.
It's, I would even say too, like no true relationship exists with the fear of the consequences of the truth of present. So if we can't be friends on the way down, if we can only be friends on the way up, do we really have a relation? You know what I mean? Like when things are great, like it's easy, but like, when you're closest friends or your best, like for me, like my best clients, because so many of my clients are friends, or you know what I mean? Like that strong connection, like it's more so important to be following up when like
I agree.
the world's a shit burrito.
And I've
Do you
learned
know
that,
what I
and I 100% agree with
Yeah.
that. And that was what I learned later on, because once I started making those calls after REO was done, everybody was so welcoming and so understanding. And like you said, it was like nothing had happened. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
That's lessons in life.
So how did you transition out of REO?
So actually I transitioned. We started to get slower and slower, and the commission started getting cut, and we were down to 1%, 1.5% with a big team that I had to have, not
And you
buyer
had to pay
agent team,
all the money up front,
it was
waiting for the
salary
check
team,
to get
right.
exactly.
It was salary team. It was
brutal.
expensive. So even though these numbers look great on there, we really didn't make that much in REO.
Yeah.
And so finally that started to go away. So we switched into short sales for a while.
Yeah.
And then after short sales, I made a huge pivot and went back into past clients, but then I went into online leads.
But no, let's go. So short sales, which was indicative of the times,
Right.
right? And just the marketplace that we were in. So distressed, displaced, kind of all the same,
Right.
but different. So you went from there into online, or did you go there to your database first?
Some of both. So I didn't,
Okay.
but I love it's easier for me to call online than it was for me to call past clients.
Why?
So I even dragged it because I don't know them and it's easier. And it's always kind of been that way until recently. I'm like, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I've always been, it's no problem. It's easier for me to pick up the phone and circle call around a neighborhood, or call a bunch of people that just, clicked a button on Zillow or whatever it was. rather than pick up and have a meaningful conversation with somebody. So,
So what's interesting is we're almost going through the evolution of everything we do with every client. And Gantry's like just personifies all of it, except I want to punch you in the face for not nurturing your database the entire time. So I'll take, it's my fault. I didn't remind you enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I am the head coach.
Because you say that every time. So yeah.
Well, but clearly I didn't say it in a way that resonated. You were like, yeah, not me. So what did you learn in the, because we can go back to like early top of funnel Facebook, so give us like obviously you mentioned Zillow, and I was a huge advocate of Zillow almost 11, 12 years ago.
Immediately, yeah.
Right? So
that's what I was doing Zillow, I was doing Sync pay-per-click.
Yeah. Craigslist ads?
I did Craigslist ads for a while. Yeah. Those were the originals. Yeah.
Right. That was predating Zillow. It was like super easy on Craigslist.
And so it was enticing, and that helped. I started building a team off of that. Right. And that's all we did is we made phone calls calling these online leads, and we had success with it.
Yeah.
But started once again neglecting the past clients. I always had some past clients, but it wasn't substantial.
Yeah. Yeah. So you did the online thing, and it sounds like you did the gamut. Did you do Zillow like at your
So I did Zillow to realtor.com. Yeah.
Zillow,
so the Zillow leads I did were a little bit different. They were called Zillow pre-foreclosure.
Oh yeah.
But they were buyer leads. So they weren't seller leads, they were buyer leads. And it was unique because only you had a private territory, and not many people, most agents didn't like them.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a little bit of a bait and switch. Yeah. They're calling on a foreclosure house. Hey, you can't have that house, but here, let me go show you something else.
Right.
Was basically what it was.
Yeah.
But we were really good at it and good at capturing those leads.
Remember that, yeah.
And had them for a long time. We were successful with the conversion on them.
Yeah. Do you remember like the conversion percentage? I know we're talking.
Right.
Talking
so standard commission used to be. Conversion used to be 2 to 3%, and we were converting at 5 to 6% on the pre-foreclosure.
See, that's bonkers.
I know, it's crazy.
But that's good skills. That's good nurturing. Like there's a lot that goes into that.
Right.
I think they discontinued it, and you still got the leads too.
So I kept getting it, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But they shut them off on me this year.
I know.
And
they're like, who's this guy Gantry that's getting all these leads?
On Huntington Beach, what?
But that was actually, and we can talk about how that affected me. But that was actually a blessing.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about how that happened this year, because there was a couple things happening between then and now. But
Yes. All right. So what would you say reflecting back? Because this is what's so fun is because you were right on the cusp or right in line with basically every trend that was happening. Like we've always prided ourselves on being ahead of the curve. So what about video? Where's your YouTube channel?
So I have a YouTube channel. So I just started doing that in the last year and a half. So
I'm gonna punch him.
I know.
I know.
Like,
warning! Podcast guest about to be punched in the head.
So YouTube, I've just started in the last year and a half.
Were you not there in 2008 and 2009
when you said to put it in?
When everybody was running up bikes?
I was calling the online leads.
No, you were doing REOs, right? But flip video cameras. Dave Robles, he remembers.
I know.
So what happened with you in video?
I don't know. It seemed like it took too much time. It wasn't the immediate return, and
right.
It wasn't instant gratification. It was more brand building.
Sure.
And so I liked, calling somebody up, helping them find them a house. Let's go do it. And get in the car.
Yeah.
And you actually, when you did video, you're really good at it.
Yeah. When I do it, I'm actually great. And now we've gotten more because I hired somebody to hold me accountable. So he comes in once a month and we shoot videos, and that's what I needed.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. Let's keep going back. So at what point, actually, there's a couple things that stand out for me when I look at all these numbers, because you come out of the REO days, and I know 432 you weren't making any real money because we just understand the economics of REO.
You had a huge team. Yeah.
Right. But then all of a sudden, like 2013, you make 450, then you make 520, then you make 630, 580, 750, 870, 730. Like you run a nice little tear. And remember, so for the people that are listening, we're talking about his GCI, not his team. Like what was, money to Gantry. So what was it? Was it the online leads? What else did you do back then?
So it was
that sounds like a lot of revenue for just online leads. And then you obviously had the Zillow funky dunky leads coming in that you were converting on the buy side.
Right. And so it was up until about 2017, it was mainly online leads.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to build the team and built it up to 6 agents. And that's all we did. We'd come in the mornings, we'd call our leads.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then about 2017, I read a book. The book was called Perk Your Sphere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically what it is, Perk, P-E-R-K.
Like gift?
Yeah, gift.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like perk, like some kind of weird, like pointy thing.
And so basically what it is you give your clients a gift once a month.
Right.
But they have to come into the office. It's a reverse Popeye.
Oh, yeah.
And
love it.
it's usually somewhere between, my gifts were between $20 and $50.
Yeah.
and ranged from like a hammock to a, fun stuff. We were, whatever
Paint
it was, a
party.
backpack.
Remember the paint party?
Right. Well, those are more events.
Yeah.
But so these were things they had to come in the office and they'd pick them up.
Yeah.
And so I started in 2017 and started almost immediately getting results from it.
Right.
But it was little bit results. It wasn't huge results.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. So that's kind of.
Well, you just fast forwarded from 17 to,
I know. What?
to March 2020 really quick.
There's a big gap.
Well, let me back up actually. So we started to grow the team.
Okay, but I want to talk about the fact that it's so your lead sources were perfect for, you look at the mix of your clients, right? 40 buy side transactions in 17 on 50 total transactions. So you never seemed to figure out that listing houses was important.
Right. So I was more focused on
And
buyers.
I said with love, right? So what was that?
So that was
that
so
intentional?
the 40 was the team.
Yeah.
And the 10 was me doing the listings.
Got it.
But what was happening at the time, I had this team of 6 people, but I was so focused on the team that my personal production went down. And so you can see how much money I made. Actually, like I cracked $1 million in total sales.
Right.
But my personal income that I got even from the team was 500.
Yeah.
Which, poor me, but still,
Suffer.
Yeah, I know. But imagine
500 here, 500 there.
But you've got the expenses much higher. So
of course.
So now you're spending a lot more money on all these leads you're buying and everything else. But I wasn't focused on listings. I was still like, and I was all focused on them, making them successful, and not really keeping my own production up at the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't get over that hump where, to me, at least what I've learned now is it's you've either got to get over 6, get up to 8, 10, 12.
Salespeople.
Right. Sales buyers agents.
Right.
Because up until then, that's the struggle.
Danger zone, man.
Right.
It's the danger zone. Okay, I got to stop because like someone's listening that knows me and maybe has met you at events like, oh, Tom and Mary are like kind of beating up Gantry. I want to be very clear. Like, I have so much respect for you. The thing that I'm hearing that I've never, because first time in a podcast setting like this, really going deep with you on this stuff, is when he goes after something, he does everything,
100%,
like whatever, like
150%.
that is such an there's a lot of skimmers. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to try this. Dabblers, we used to call them, right? Dabble this, dabble. Like, you're like, we're going all in, online leads. We're going to be the best at it. We're going to convert the highest.
He goes deep.
Right? Like, that's, so where did that come from?
So that's a positive and a negative because I get so single-minded focused.
And
that's the ADD kicking in where I get so focused and all consumed with it.
Yeah.
Like,
it
how do we do it?
Like
how do we
OCD, not ADD. ADD is like, hey, whoa, but right? Like,
true.
So, but that's a huge skill set. Where did that come from? Is that, you think it is that ADD, OCD, however you want to, whatever letters you want to put on?
Because ADD is more like you're looking around, but also it also gives you that laser focus.
It does.
And that was all we did. So I would just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I think that's, even as in engineering, I had to be so laser focused, but exclude everything else. And so I missed the simple stuff as opposed to focus on what's right in front of me.
That's
so
interesting.
That's why with these online leads, I was like, okay, that's all we're doing. And everything else is kind of a distraction.
There's plenty of them and we can just keep getting it. And it's a math equation.
And it's going to go on forever.
Right.
That's exactly.
Or until Zillow says, why are we sending this guy in Huntington Beach all these leads?
We don't know.
So COVID hits.
So there's a few things that happened. So COVID was rough time for everybody.
Yeah.
It was difficult, and you did such a great job of coming on each week and just kind of keeping everybody's spirits up.
Yeah.
For me, that was a really tough year. So
why? It was tough for everybody, but why? Like, give us an example.
So in that January that year, my lead team buyer's agent left, and he was the main producing. He was the guy who handled everything. He was the one who trained everybody, and he left.
Ruh-roh.
And I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
And then everybody else left.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of I shut down.
Yeah.
And so for the first 3 months of that year, I had, or for the first up until July of 2020, I had 3 sales, and that was it. And
we're talking like a consistent 50, 60 deal a year producer, and all of a sudden you go to 3
up until July,
6-7 months.
And so I was like, but imagine still having the expenses of somebody who's making $700,000. Now we got 3 deals. So I had that stress. And then just to kind of add on to it, I shattered my ankle in June.
Yeah.
And so now, not only could
How did you do that?
Yeah.
So my
I
wife...
thought we weren't supposed to be outside during June in Southern California with COVID.
So my wife says I was paying like I was 20 years younger.
Yeah.
Probably more like 40 years younger. But I was on something called a one wheel. So it's a
No.
skateboard with a big wheel in the middle.
Oh my God.
I know exactly what
And
it
they go
is.
20 miles an hour and they go 20
Yes.
miles at a time. And I had 600 miles in mine. So that's what I would do is I go ride this thing.
Yeah.
But they're known on occasion to just nosedive. You're going along 20 miles an hour and just nosedive.
Yeah.
And I've got the full, like my mom or my wife says I look like the 40-year-old virgin.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Full
So I have a
helmet.
helmet, I got wrist pads, I got elbow pads, I got knee pads, I got padded shorts.
Is there a photo of this? Because we're going to
Oh
want
my
that for the
gosh,
podcast.
this is great.
Yes.
It's pretty bad. So, but I obviously didn't have anything
Safety
in my
first.
ankle.
Yeah.
So I was going along and shattered
Oh
my
my
ankle and
God,
full on with
Gantry.
a plate and 6 screws and 2 pins.
Oh man.
And I'm used to standing up to when I prospect, and now I have to keep my leg above my heart and keep it up.
Right.
And I was
Right.
for
Still to date?
no back then.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So
Like,
just recovery.
yeah. So, but for several months, I couldn't stand up and it would hurt and to walk and everything else. And so I have Yvonne Arnold as my
Yes.
coach.
Yeah.
And she said, Gantry, this is a blessing.
Yeah.
She goes, at the beginning, between losing my buyer's agent, that's when the Zillow shut off.
Yeah.
At the beginning of January of that year. And
The
so
old
now,
wives' tale. Things come in threes.
I know.
Assistant, lead buyer's agent, and buyer's agents,
An
and
ankle.
your ankle.
Yeah.
and lost Zillow.
Yes.
And so,
Okay, 4.
Or yeah.
You're an
well, no, so the
overachiever.
system was still there, but lost Zillow, ankle, and then lost buyer's agent. And Yvonne looks at me or tells me over the phone in her
Yvonne voice.
Indirect way.
yes. She says, Gantry, you've been to all these Tony Robbins things.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do.
Yeah.
Get the hell out there and do it.
Yeah.
And so she basically said, okay. And so then what happened? Because I was depressed.
Okay, but
and
how did you take that?
it was carefrontations with the
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. And it was,
Yeah.
I was backed once again. I was backed into a corner.
Yeah.
You know, I've got all these bills coming in. Got every kid's my daughter's in college.
Right.
I've got another one
Right.
getting ready to go to college.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we've got to make this work. And so, first of all, she said, you need to hire a showing assistant. And I'm like, well, I never had one before. So I hired a person to go show the homes for me. I set up the appointments, and she would go take the buyers around. She'd go, go in and actually for listings, and set up and have a little camera so I could talk to them. And that was the biggest blessing of all, because it forced me to change my business.
Yeah.
And change your comp model.
Right.
Right? Dramatically. Way more net to you.
Right. So she was paid hourly plus 5% of each of the
Right.
deals that she brought in. So
That's the model.
I know.
5% of
Congratulations.
commission. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I got it. 5% for the listener. Hourly plus 5% versus half
50.
Yeah.
and all the other expenses.
Yep.
Right? Brilliant. Especially for your own personal book of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but then I got my mindset back, because that was the problem. I didn't. So she said, you need to start doing your affirmations. You need to start doing your daily accountability daily accountable checklist.
Yep.
And what that was, I used to do it a long time ago. And basically what it was a checklist of things you need to do each day.
Yeah.
So one of the coaches realized that I wasn't doing it at the right time. And they said, I don't care. Just as long as you get it done in the day, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And so, it would have things on it as, simple things as, contact 5 past clients, 554. So all
I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Yes.
but it would also have meditate, do affirmations, work
Yes.
out, have all
Yeah.
these things in here, and each day I'd check it off. And then
Yeah.
I'd also have on it, how would you rate yourself today on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
So it forced me to say, okay, how did I do?
Yeah.
And so each day my goal was trying to get better. So it would start off at a 5 or 4 even, and then finally start to get up at 8s and 9s. And I didn't give myself a lot of 9s and 10s, unless I took a listing or had like multiple listings or whatever it was, because I was pretty hard on myself. But I wanted to keep the pressure on and keep driving.
Yeah.
And so from the 3 the first half of the year, I ended up with 17 total that year. But it started me off because all of that groundwork with the perk your fear stuff
Yeah.
started me back, it planted those seeds for the past clients.
Yeah.
And so this year, with no team basically, I've got one buyer's agent who's done a couple deals.
Yeah.
And then I got the showing assistant.
Yeah.
Now we've taken off and had the highest profit I've ever had.
Right. Right. I can see
Which-
that.
Wow, Gantry.
Yeah.
So we took it up, we're at 920 for the year
Yeah.
for profit, which
Yeah.
is, but it was all about focusing back on, so I have no online leads this year.
Yeah.
We had a database of 12,000, so we'll call through those.
Still
Those have been
nurture.
nurtured for the last
Yeah.
5 years, more than that, 10 years. And so now we're back focused on the past clients. We're
I
on
just got your
events. And-
email. It just
Yep.
came in. Yes. Welcome back.
Yeah, and it's so much nicer, because I like them,
Right.
and they're actually like me too.
Yes.
It's-
Yes.
it's good to call past clients.
Yes. Okay. Say that directly to the
I
camera.
know. It's
please.
like,
Call your past clients.
How many times for the listeners you've heard me say, like, hey, don't worry about it. Don't call your past clients. It's okay. Someone else will.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody else is going to call them. Someone else is going to fall in love with them, going to nurture them. So Gantry, there's so many lessons here, but the thing that I'm looking at, and I think I might be missing one, but you said something that is just so, like it drives this wedge in my brain in this conversation. Back against the wall when you first started, back against the wall when the market turned and really went south in like 7 and 8. Was there a back against the wall moment when you came out of REO back into regular? Because clearly there was a massive back against the wall moment.
There absolutely was, because my REO had gone away.
Right.
And I hadn't talked to the past clients. And so now it forced me, like, that's why I was like, okay, how are we going to do? And we were calling online leads for 8-9 hours a day. So that's how I came out of that one.
So, you and I, we all live and die by run plays at work. Clearly once we've acknowledged, like once you get into something, man, it is all in and you run that play. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself as your friend, like, what's the defensive position we need to take when clearly every 2 to 3 years you have one of these moments?
Not like more than that, but yeah.
I don't know.
But you said something
four.
But now we're starting to build
right?
it. So now we're
one of your closest friends is over here nodding, by the way. So, hello. Yes.
It's now, staying out, now being consistent. I think, having that consistent mindset, getting up every day, doing the mental preparation makes all the difference in the world. And it seems like such a simple thing to do, but when I don't do it, then that's when things tend to fall apart.
Gantry, you said something that's really interesting. You said each day you try to be better than the day before. So the wonderful thing is that you're competing against yourself, which is so impactful. And like, can you take that and look at that and say, what I've did over the years, this is what I'm going to make sure I'm getting better. I'm competing against me.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And because I look at I did this last year. I've got to do this year. And grow every year. Okay, how do I do it? And how do I do it in less time? And how do we do it? And now it's focused on how do we do it so we can spend more time with the family, and how do we, keep growing those numbers at the same time. So
okay, so if I was starting over today as your coach, and I'm like, all right, Gantry, so where is your business going to come from? What are the buckets for 2022?
So buckets for 2022, primary one is now that we're able to do events again. Yeah. So we're doing events. We're starting Perk Your Sphere up again. Yeah. So
it's
past clients is the primary.
Past client center of influence database. So we break database into like 6 different cohorts, right? So there's past clients that can do transactions, past clients that can refer, sphere that can do transactions, sphere that can refer, versus agent referral, which we haven't even unpacked. And I know you get a ton of that business. And then those old leads that you have, right? So there's really 6. Who's going to get the most concentration?
Past clients, 100%.
Okay, so past clients.
And that's even now that because I'm finding for us, BombBomb's not getting through as much. And so now I'm texting more. I'm sending them stuff and sending them to my BombBomb letters that I've sent out previously. Like in other words, if we send out a BombBomb email, we get maybe a 15% open rate. Right. And so now I'm texting them a link to the BombBomb email, and they're opening those up, and now our open rates have skyrocketed.
What do you find that your past clients want the most from you?
So same thing. So we also use a product called HomeBot. So they want to know what's going on what's going on with their house. So they want to know evaluation. So that's the other thing we're doing is dropping off CMA on their individual house. So HomeBot gives them an automated valuation. And now quarterly, we're giving them a CMA, a quick and dirty one, letting them know what the value of their home is. So
I love that, because it's like with HomeBot, it's like, have you looked at your analytics? Does anybody opt out of that?
I don't think I've had anybody opt. Yeah, everybody, and it gets opened all the time, and it's cheap. It's a great thing. Yeah.
So it's like the knowledge of their equity, like what's the value of their home.
And we use YLOPO with Follow Up Boss.
Thank you. I was just going to ask too. Okay, we're going to go tech also, but I want to go back to database, past clients, events, Perk Your Sphere, HomeBot, CMA quarterly. What's your next lead pillar?
Next lead pillar after that is going through our existing database. So we
the older leads.
And so with the older leads, what we're doing is retargeting them through YLOPO. Okay. So there's no need to buy any new leads. We've got 12,000 leads in there. Wow. Yeah. That these people just raise their hand. Hey, we want to go see a property now. We want to go see this or that. And it's because they're getting targeted on Facebook. They're getting targeted, all across. Yep. So other lead source that we're doing is agent referrals, like you said. Yep. So
how are you? I mean, obviously,
So agent referrals, I don't. So that one we're not as So it's
systematic.
right.
Yeah.
It's exactly.
Where
So I have a few agents
made it like their thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not I'm not great at that, but I've got a few clients in areas like San Diego that send us leads that we do a great job on.
But you're
and
so
now
well
we're getting
known,
all
like in our community.
It's like
I think part of it is because of Huntington Beach and because of Orange County is expensive, that it's tough for people to come in, except for a few target, like unless you're Seattle or Northern Cal or New York or
Which they're all moving here in droves.
They are. Yep.
exactly.
Yes.
And so that's where we get our leads from, is those places. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about tech.
Okay.
So you mentioned YLOPO,
Yep. So we do YLOPO
right?
with Follow Up Boss,
Right. With Follow Up Boss. So big shout out to both those companies. Love them both.
using HomeBot too.
Yep. HomeBot I got. Is Follow Up Boss your primary CRM or okay?
Follow Boss. So we switched from Commissions Inc. over to Follow Boss.
Yep.
And mainly because of the ability to plug other things into it.
Yeah.
So because Sync is very closed-minded, they don't let you plug stuff into it. And so now we can.
Sorry, Sync.
And so we also use Call Action is a big one for us too.
Call Action. Big Jesse. Jesse, if you're listening to this, call me.
Love Call Action.
Yep.
Let me think what else.
Call Action's great. Like track and measure everything, know every source, kind of know I spent $1 here, whatever it is. Like it's
So it's all about. So
measurement
so one of the things that's fantastic about Call Action is if somebody calls. So let's say it's a sign call. So I've got to sign up. I have a special phone number on it. If somebody calls that number, before I pick up the phone, it'll tell me if they're most of the time if it's a neighbor.
Yep.
It'll tell me if it's if they're from the area, how much. And sometimes it even gets very detailed, like what high school they went or what college they went to, how much their income is.
Right.
And so that way it's a different conversation. If they're from out of the area, now I'm saying, hey, it's probably a buyer who's looking at it. If it's a neighbor, now I'm talking about, this is where the house is. If you thought about selling, exactly.
Yeah.
A funny one with Call Action was a couple of years ago. I was out to dinner, and a lot of out to dinner I just let it ring. Because it once they call in, it has automatic text messages that go back to them.
Right.
And all of a sudden, up on the name, comes the secret sums.
Yeah.
And this guy and I was like, whoa,
Could it be that signature? Yeah.
So this guy
Big name in Orange
says, hey,
County.
I saw your name. I want to see this home.
Yeah.
It was, and so he said, I'm a prominent family in California. I'm not going to tell you who I am. And so they're one of the big, huge family.
Like,
It's like a
little
billionaire
did they
family.
know.
Done. You're like, that's okay. I know exactly who you are.
Yeah, and so that's why I said, do you want to see it tomorrow? Yeah, and so
Yes.
ended up showing him property. We did end up, closing a deal with him, but we've still got him. We're still talking to him and everything else.
great.
But the fact that
That's
I knew
great.
to step out of dinner to go talk to this guy.
That was a good
that's
idea.
really a good
fantastic.
idea.
You're like, wow, is that last name Bren? I think I'll take that call. Yes.
Interesting.
All right. So we talked about lead sources. Let's talk about video. Talk to us about like what's your ambition for video?
So I've been doing a lot of Instagram. So more focused on. So I have a person who specializes in Instagram. We do Facebook, obviously. We're doing Google My Business, or
Good.
the new name.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. Your Google business page.
And then YouTube. So so I hired somebody, specifically a video guy, to come in once a month, because if it's not in my schedule, it doesn't exist. And so he comes in and he forces me to do these videos, basically. So it says, hey, that's probably not the right
Oh
thing.
my gosh, I can't believe you just
You've
said
created
that.
the structure
Yeah.
to do video once a month.
Forced me.
So how many?
He holds me accountable to do them each month.
That's- there you
That's
go.
the better part.
So I was just with Glenda Baker, right? Oh My Stars. Big shout out to, I'm a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Glenda Baker. She does the same thing. Her video crew shows up just one day a month, but they shoot like 40 to 50 short form pieces of content with like 27 costume changes. What's your plan?
So typically we're doing not as many. Typically we're doing 6 to 7 videos that he's shooting, answering questions about our local market.
Good.
So I'm very focused on what's it like to live in Huntington Beach. What are the best things in Huntington Beach? What can you expect, as opposed
You
to
guys
general.
are doing the mastermind SEO plan right now.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So your brother's actually in our mastermind group,
I
and so
know,
he's
yes.
kind of helped direct kind of where we need to go with that.
Yeah.
So do you do it based in the office, or do you actually go on location?
So far I've only been doing it in the office. So that the location would be the next thing.
Well, you're in a beautiful place.
Actually, though, there is something to preset, set, right? Design, consistency. I know exactly what I'm going to get. Do you look at the camera or off camera?
Usually we have multiple cameras, but
Yeah.
usually I'm staring at one camera.
Okay. Test some off camera, see what happens.
Oh.
Do you do all long form or short form? Because if you only do 6 videos in one day,
Right.
either it's a really short day.
So we've been
Or they're
doing
long videos.
anywhere from a minute to 2 minutes. So not long stuff, which that's what Patrick's basically said. Hey, you got
short,
to do more.
short form.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to do longer stuff. But the reason why I've been doing a minute, so we can put them on Instagram and
For sure. Are you doing on Reels?
We just started doing a little bit of reels.
Okay.
So.
You'll see a massive lift in reels.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember when I said to you, hey, I got this app from Facebook and they're giving me access to a thing called live video.
Yep.
And I was like, well, clearly this is going to be the thing.
And you had everybody do live at one of the summits. Yeah.
Everybody's
Open houses, everything.
Everybody had videos of themselves like this, like this is me up my nose, right? Like, yes.
It's so true.
If you just follow the trends, that's how you win.
Yep.
Right. So you're definitely going to win here. You should follow up on one of our clients, Jeremy Knight. So shout out to Jeremy Knight. $100,000 a month is what he's making.
Wow.
Just from his YouTube channel, following the same SEO strategy.
Okay.
And you know what he does? He reads the news. He
Really?
just reads the news. Here's what's going on in Austin, Texas. Hey, did everybody see that Elon Musk is looking to buy a $20 million house and they're moving in 6,000 employees? And he's reading the news. And then what happens is the news then picks him up. And then he's reading the news article about him talking about Austin real estate.
Wow.
Jeremy is a beast of a human being. He's a super, super great guy, but crushes consistent video every day, all day on YouTube. And then Insta and goes every place else. So your video ambition is what? Like, why are you really doing it?
To get come list me calls.
Yeah.
And that's the reason.
Yeah.
Ultimately, to build that familiarity so they feel like they know you and then get the come list me calls.
Yeah.
And the success I've had in it is not so much getting those calls, but it's validation.
For sure.
So, because anytime I go on a listing appointment, we watched all your videos.
Right.
So that's kind of, to me, I feel like that's the first step.
Yeah.
Is now the validation, and then soon the next step is to get new clients.
So a couple of weeks ago, we did a mastermind with all these video rock stars.
I saw that,
right?
yeah.
And Christoph Chu said, here's how it works. If I get a call like, hey, we want you to come talk to us about our property. How did you hear about me? Oh, we saw you on YouTube. Oh, how many videos did you watch by chance? He's like, if they tell me like north of 5, it's a come list me call. Right? Like they know me, they like me, they understand my style, they understand who I am and how I'm going to show up. And he's like, it just greases the wheels. And I don't understand why most agents don't get that. Like you clearly get it, and that's what you're going to build towards.
Working on, yeah.
Why do you think most people are still not doing video? I mean, it is 2021, 2022, 2023. Like the world has changed.
And you've done is better than perfect.
Right.
And so I think people are worried about how they look, how they respond. I mean, even I have that. Okay, do I need to, let's make sure we've got this or that going, but it doesn't matter. Even if it just get it out. I
know some people that are super boring on video and they kill it because they're just consistent. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just okay, I'm gonna give a shout out to David Caldwell, who's like, here's what's going on in the, Portland, and like Dave says, I am a dry, like analytical. I mean, he's a beast of a human being. I love you, buddy. Amazing. But like, if he was here right now, he would go, yeah, that's it. I just read the news. And then they call me and say, come list my house.
But it makes sense because they keep on seeing somebody.
Right.
Like, well, it's the obvious choice.
Yeah.
You're actively, in front of me. So.
All right. So I have a bunch of random questions.
Okay.
You were going to say something though. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. The other thing we're doing too is circle calls.
Yeah.
So the other thing, is on either our listings or new listings.
Yeah.
Calling around those, and telling, once again, old school. Nothing new and earth shattering, but just making that contact. Yeah. So we're calling and texting. Yeah. Saying, hey, did you see what happened with your neighbor? So,
Jeff Mays.
Yeah.
That script
I love
is
that.
so good.
Oh my God.
Did you hear what happened with your neighbor?
Exactly.
They're like, what? Yeah, man. We just sold their house for $865,000, right? Multiple offers. So you're circle calling. Go ahead.
I was just curious. It's like when you call or when you text, how are they responding to you?